Hey there, David Chesworth, coming to you for another episode of Health Talk. I'm coming to you from Hilton Head Health on the beautiful Hilton Head Island, and today I'm interviewing our very own Director of Behavioral Health, Anne Poirier. So we're going to talk about something called body neutrality. This is actually a term that's trending right now on TikTok. 1.1 billion views on TikTok, this hashtag body neutrality. And believe it or not, Anne Poirier is credited for being the one who has popularized this term. So we're going to talk about that today. Another thing about Anne is she's authored 2 books, The Body Joyful and Not a Fat Annie. And so definitely check out those books if you haven't read them yet. Buy them, read them. They're awesome. I read one of them. I still need to read the second one. Love them. So, Anne, let's dive right in. First of all, what is body neutrality? And how did you come to be the person who popularized the term?
Well, it's a great question because it is really popular right now, and it hasn't been popular for the last few years, and it's just starting to pick up momentum, which is awesome for a lot of people because body neutrality is a respectful, non-judgmental way to look at your body. And it's really focusing on the body's function and what the body does rather than its appearance. And so a couple of the points that I always like to make when I discuss body neutrality is this separation of body and self-worth. And I think for so many of us, we think about our bodies as our self-worth, and they're completely separate. And that is kind of this is push towards body neutrality is we're stepping away from the appearance and stepping away from society's pressure, beauty ideals, diet culture, all those things. And we're stepping into kind of what's our body do? How can I see my body differently, and what does it look like? And because of that, I kind of developed this continuum, like a body neutrality continuum. On one end, we have hatred, which so many people stick in this body hatred space. And then on the other side is body love, and you got to love your body. And if you've hated your body for a really long time, finding love just seems never ending. I'm never going to get there. I'll never get there. And so we throw up our hands and we feel hopeless. Mm-hmm. And so that in a nutshell is what this is kind of about. We turn down the noise, society's noise and beauty standards and what I call society's thin ideal. And we turn up this focus on function and look at our body's strengths and who we are as a person, mm-hmm. rather than just our appearance and showing up just as ourselves and thinking, everybody's looking at me and, I can't be the person that I want to be because I don't look the way I'm supposed to look. So when we think about body neutrality on this continuum, I always talk about the objective is not to get to the other side. The objective is just to nudge yourself up the spectrum a little bit. And if you can move out of body hatred, out of body dislike, towards body respect, honoring the body, appreciating the body gratitude, that gets you to a place where things might change because you're thinking about yourself differently. This whole topic of body neutrality is really trying to see yourself differently and look at yourself differently. Because once we think differently about ourselves, we show up differently. And I think that's one of the most important things with body neutrality. And one of the topics that I talk about a lot is that we are just so much more than our body. And our body takes us through every single thing that we have ever done. Like every experience you've ever had has come through your body, the good and the bad, the highs and the lows. But everything comes through our body and we don't even think about it. We just think that I need to change my body to make it look like it's supposed to look. And whatever that is, we've seen from the 1900s really till now, sizes and shapes of bodies that come to the top of the media are always very different. And how are we supposed to keep changing? Mm-hmm. And that's what our society has done. And so highlighting body neutrality is such a great way of saying, hey, you don't have to love your body. Mm-hmm. You can land right here in the middle. And if you don't have to love your body, here's the part of that I like to make sure that you know. If I choose that I don't have to love my body, I also can choose that I don't have to hate my body. Because hating really sinks us into depression, anxiety, and then can spin us into eating disorders, as I've experienced myself. And so stepping away from this hating, slowly up this scale to a place of just neutral. Let me hang out here and just focus on the things that my body can do, the way that I can see a sunrise, the way that I can hug my daughters, the way that I can walk down the beach, the way that my body like digests food and does all those other wonderful things. It's just a real shift in the perspective of how we see ourselves.
It almost seems like when I hear you describe body neutrality, it's not just this other point on the spectrum. It almost seems like an alternate approach entirely to viewing, to approaching a body image challenge. And so, like, for instance, in the article that you were credited in by Science Direct, how exposure to body neutrality content on TikTok affects young women's body image and mood. They use the term, you use the term body hate and body love. They use the terms the thin ideal and body positivity. It almost, in the way it was talked about in that article, it was almost emphasizing the point that no matter which side you are on that spectrum, you're focusing on image. And body neutrality, it almost seems like it's two things. It's the center of that spectrum where you neither hate nor love, but your focus is now in a different direction too.
Completely.
It's like it opens a new door.
We see a lot of things. I mean, and that's what we talk about here at Hilton Head Health. The world sees diet and food in this place,
physique.
Right? And physique,
right?
And body and exercise and all of it. And what we do here is we try to say, oh, no, there's so much more. Look at all these other things.
Right.
Look over here, and look, you can go outside, and look, you can go to the pool, and look at all the things that you can do to move your body, and look at all these different foods that you can eat. And why can't we do the same thing when it comes to our bodies, especially if our body image is taking us in a place that's unhealthy for us, where we're punishing our body, where we're either restricting or we're over exercising or we're punishing ourselves for not looking right, and then isolating, and then all the other things that come with it. Right.
Well, and we work at Hilton Head Health, and health does not have one physique per se, right? And to pursue a physique is almost, it seems like, a misguided goal almost. And that the body neutrality mindset helps you to focus on more meaning in your life. Like, what is it you really want to get out of? What can your body do? How can your body serve you, and how can you give back to your body, as opposed to how it looks?
Yeah. What do you want to do in your body?
Yeah.
And let's start there, and not the weight piece. We know people who are healthy and unhealthy in large size bodies and in small size bodies.
Absolutely.
And so it what do you want to be able to do in your body? Let's start there, and then how do we take the behavior approach to what are the things that will help you do those things, and what are the things that will help you feel better in your body. And those are the steps we want to take versus the appearance piece, because that really puts a lot of pressure on a person to think they have to be perfect. And I use an analogy, and you've probably heard me use this analogy, and I really like the way it kind of connects body neutrality, and I call it the good gift, bad gift analogy.
I love this analogy.
Yeah. It's, I received this great gift from a friend of mine, and when I got it, it was a picture. It was on Norman Rockwell, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
And I use it in the classes that I teach here around body neutrality. And I received it 18 years ago. It has moved 5 times. It gets packed up special. It goes right in my bathroom so I can see it every single morning because I love it. Makes me smile, makes me feel good. This good gift that I received, I take very good care of. And it's almost unconscious. Like, I don't think about it, I just do. And that's what we do when we get a good gift. We just take care of it. When we get a bad gift, it just kind of disappears. It ends up, I don't know, in the back closet. It ends up being put in the trash or re-gifted or off to Goodwill. It just kind of filters out, and it's almost unconscious. And so if we think about our bodies, if we think about our body as a bad gift, how are we treating it? Almost unconsciously. And how do we start to look at our bodies as being the good gift that they are, so that we can keep experiencing things, and keep moving forward in that direction as opposed to, I hate my thighs. It's just this self-defeating self-talk that keeps us stuck in that place.
Right.
Never.
Why would you take care of something you hate?
I'm right. It's just doesn't sound right.
Right.
So, and why would we punish something that we care about? We don't have to love it, but how can we just start to shift the focus and shift the way we think of ourselves? And it really does start with our own inner self-talk and how we start to talk to ourselves.
So where did the term body neutrality come from? Or at least where did you first hear about it?
This is such a good story for Hilton Head Health.
Yeah. Because
I actually first heard the term back in 2015 from a former employee of Hilton Head Health, Erin Rishis. And amazing. So it was in a class, and she had mentioned, she was talking about body neutrality in this bridge in a class. And she was no longer at that facility that I was at, and I was working there. And the concept hit me so close to home that I grabbed onto it, and I created a 4-part body image series from the concept of body neutrality. Like, this needed to be heard by more people so that more people could start to feel differently about themselves. I know for myself, just being stuck in a place of hating my body and always trying to fix my body and it never being right, regardless of wherever I was, it didn't matter because I was still me. So there was a lot more wrapped up in that. But this concept gave me space and time to say, okay, I don't have to love my body. I can just respect it, and I can honor it, and I can appreciate what it does. And let's start there. And so with that type of a framework, I started to share this concept with the people that came in and out of the facility. And it was really a game changer because people always felt they had to change their body because their body was tied up in their worth. And as soon as we can take apart those two pieces and start to see our bodies differently, it really makes a big difference. And so that's where I heard that first. And so I credit her. What happened, I think, is there was a newspaper person in one of the classes, and she grabbed on this term body neutrality and started
in one of our classes here.
In one of the classes where I was.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Where I learned about it from Erin. She was in one of mine. And so it just started to spiral from, an article. I think it was in The Cut in 2015. And that's the article that seems to get, when you look body neutrality up, it seems to get placed in that spot. So it was a person that was writing for The Cut.
I see.
That actually, was in one of the classes really, and kind of, she captured the thought of body neutrality and thought this is something that we need to share. And so she shared it, and that's where kind of this spiral. So my name's been connected a lot, and I've done a lot of interviews with people and the media around this concept.
You've been really pushing it.
Yeah.
And trying to get the awareness out. Yeah, that's
Please.
Great. Yeah.
and here, there's been quite a few people who have said, this is just new. I've never heard of it before. No one ever has heard of it when they come into class. But in the class, once they hear this concept, it gives them a door. It opens the door. It gives them hope. There's a different way to look at this whole health. It really becomes a door for overall health, not just our body, but because we've always been trying to push our body. It's like putting a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
My body needs to fit, or else I can't be the person that I think the world wants me to be.
Right.
But that's wrong.
People tie it so closely to their identity.
Right.
Well, and I think oftentimes stereotypically it's thought of as a female issue, but I mean, I think it's a human issue. I think like even, one of my best friends growing up struggled with weight. And I remember he had major success with losing weight in college and even after. And he's kind of yo-yoed a little bit, but I remember when he was at his thinnest, I was talking to him over the phone and asking him how he feels, and he goes, David, it's the weirdest thing. I still look in the mirror and see that same little boy who's overweight.
Yeah.
So even he,
Yeah.
it's a very real
Yeah.
thing. And so I think that it's really cool hearing how this message resonates with our guests here. And clearly 1.1 billion views on TikTok, it's resonating. And TikTok is set up in a way in which it promotes content that's likely to be viewed and watched. And the fact that it's having such a positive impact is really amazing. What do you think it is about this message that's resonating so strongly?
I think that for young people, they've been fed the same thin ideal.
Yeah.
We have Fitspro and we have Airbrush and we have, Photoshop and all the different types of retouch up. And, I did a little research, and it's the average person takes 20 takes before they post a selfie because they're making sure that they look as good as they can.
Right.
And that's our industry. That's the beauty industry. The I think it's like $375 billion industry. Diet culture is now $89.9 billion. And so no wonder, we've had this pressure to fit into a society's ideal of the perfect body. And body neutrality, I think why it's trending on TikTok is because it's giving people hope. It's giving people like, I don't have to conform. I can appreciate my body where it is. And it's what's happening is these influencers are sharing how it's helped them. And I'm so proud of them for stepping up and saying, this concept changed the way I am now living my life. I'm respecting my body more and I'm treating my body better. And I don't care what it looks like. It's from the inside. It doesn't define my worth, and I can do the things that I want to do. And that just changes their whole outlook. And because lots of body sizes and shapes are showing up, resonating with this body neutrality space, more and more people are catching on. So, and following, because the biggest word I think about is hope. When we were born, babies love their bodies. They eat their toes, they play with their fingers, they rub their bellies, like they love their bodies. We are taught and we learn to hate our bodies. The good news is if we learned it, that means we can unlearn it. And unlearning it just takes time. It takes patience. It takes the willingness, right, to look at things differently and look at our bodies differently. One of the exercises that I do is actually allowing people to explore their own body story, to look at where did their beliefs come from? Where did that come from, this belief that your body isn't good enough, that you had to look a different way? And then to realize that we get to question our beliefs. And that can happen in lots of different ways, especially through the health and wellness industry. So, being here, but with an all-inclusive kind of comprehensive approach, we're able to say, where did that belief come from? And if you're willing, we can question that belief because we're given that. We're given them as kids from our parents and from school. And, we just assume all beliefs around bodies or food or exercise is the truth. And yet not really. So we can question those things. And when we do, that opens the door for new ways of thinking about ourselves, new perspectives around body, around food, around movement. And that's what this whole piece is about. It's not just, it is about the body, but it's also about, how do we want to step forward from here if I'm not always trying to change my body?
Right.
I ask people how much time, energy, brain space is being spent thinking about fixing themselves or making themselves look a certain way.
Right.
And if we can open up some of that space for, joy and fun and peace and expressing yourself in different ways, your own unique qualities and talents and traits, and seeing yourself for those reasons, that's what the world needs, is people to show up as themselves with all their uniqueness and genuineness, and share you with us. Don't hide because you don't feel you look good enough.
Yeah. Well, and I like the word you used, hope, because it sounds like it doesn't, it offers a realistic alternative. You're not just saying, stop beating yourself up. Mm-hmm. And you're not just saying, well, just love yourself, which can seem so far away and unrealistic. But the body neutrality approach is find something about you that you could appreciate or that your body does for you.
Right.
And I think anybody could find something to start.
Right.
Have you ever worked with someone who really struggled to take the first step towards body neutrality? And I guess maybe one step back, what is the first step? Like if you like, you've never heard of this, you're trying to start this new thing. How do you start?
Yeah. And I think it's the concept piece. Number one, being willing to say, there's another option. I don't have to love my body. Mm-hmm. And with that, realizing that hating your body or always trying to fix your body isn't the answer either. Mm-hmm. And starting with kind of that concept, and then diving into who are you as a person. I do a visualization, which is a very impactful process for people. And this is how I get them to understand this pulling apart and separating of body image and self-worth.
Should we do it?
Yeah, I think we should.
Let's do it. Okay.
So close your eyes.
All right.
And take a deep breath. And exhale out. And I want you to think about two of your either friends or family members, two people that you like to hang out with. So once you have those two people in your head, I want you to ask yourself, like, why do you like to hang around them? What are their qualities? What are their traits? Why do you like to hang out? And kind of create a little list of things. And as you take a look at the list of the things that you like about your friends or family, ask yourself this question: does it have anything to do with the size of their body? And then as you sit in that same space, and this part's a little bit harder, think about two people. They can be the same or they can be different, that like to hang around you, that like to be with you, that call you up and want to, go out to dinner or go to a movie or whatever. And why? Can you ask yourself why? What is it that you bring to the table to these relationships? What are your qualities? What are your traits? What is it about you? And I will always say, if you don't know, if you just call them or text them and ask them, they will be happy to share those qualities and traits with you. And I understand that, because that can happen. And as you think about the things that you bring to the table, ask yourself that same question: does it have anything to do with the size or shape of your body?
It's a pretty good exercise.
They're two different things.
Right.
And yet we put them together. Mm-hmm. If my body looks this way, I'm okay. My body looks like this, I'm not. Mm-hmm. And so we're always seeking, because I need to be okay. I need to belong. I need to fit in. I need to be accepted. I'm always pushing the envelope to try to be something that maybe my body will never be. Mm-hmm. And understanding that we are so much more than our bodies. And an exercise from, you asked me this question, and I'll just share this. An exercise from intuitive eating counselors is called the Petals of Worth. And it's a flower, it's petals. And you write in non-physical traits around these petals. And I worked with a woman once, and it took her a month, but she finally filled out her flower. She could not even think about filling out her flower for probably a week and a half.
So she didn't even get the first one until a week and a half in.
She couldn't get there. And we just kept working through her as a person, and, pulling these activities or experiences that she's had in her life to kind of pull these things out. We have to kind of realize that we do have unique qualities and traits, and how do we start to bring them out of us? A lot of times people have been told not to do that, not to, kids are to be seen, not heard, right? That kind of thing. and traits have been kind of squandered a little bit. And so this trying to you're building yourself from the inside out a little bit, and to realize we're all so different.
What I liked about the friend exercise that you did is you started by asking about what the friend brings to the table. Because I think people usually have an easier time pointing out positive traits in others.
For sure.
And so I guess it like puts them in a positive thinking mindset, because it's not about me. It's about
right.
It's about them.
It's about
But
them.
then you turn the tables. It's like, well, they clearly are your friends. They like you too. What would they say about you?
Yeah.
And perhaps harder to maybe verbalize or say out loud, but at least when that question's asked deep down, they must have an instinctive thought about it.
Right.
Even if they're not willing to say it out loud.
Right. And they don't have to. That's the other piece, that they can kind of hold it in. But that's where this starts, is trying to see that. And I always say, I love people to see them the way their friends see them.
Yeah.
If they could see themselves the way their friends see them, their family sees them, that starts to change their own perspective of themselves. And that's kind of what that exercise is designed to do. And that's the work of body neutrality.
Yeah.
And to find new phrases, more neutral phrases around your body, so that when the inner critic comes up, when you look in the mirror, that you have some, I call them pocket phrases or go-to phrases that you can kind of help yourself with.
Like a mantra?
Kind of like a mantra or an affirmation of like, my thighs are strong and help me walk, or my value is not connected to my work. My value is not connected to my body, or my body is healing, or my body allows me independence.
Yeah.
So I can walk to the store, or those types of things. So they're just factual based things about our body.
Yeah.
My arms do this. My legs do this.
It's objectively true.
Yeah.
And it happens to also be positive.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Because our minds, and our minds, if we say something like, "Oh, I'm beautiful," and our brain doesn't,
right, like that
doesn't
Saturday
believe
Night Live skit.
Yeah.
And people love me, or whatever.
I always go, "There's the peanut gallery back here." Yeah. Who do you think you are? No, they don't. Right. So we actually will sabotage ourselves with that kind of phrase.
So, okay. So is it fair to say that you're not a subscriber of the fake it till you make it type thing? Or what's your thought on that?
That's a great question. And I think it works for some.
Okay. It's a tool in the toolbox.
It's a tool in the toolbox. And like so many.
Okay.
And everything that I talk about and I educate on here is subjective, because people come in from lots of different experiences. And so, when they hear certain things, one thing sticks and another doesn't. And for another person, it's the exact opposite. We have to find out what's going to work for us.
So you're not sitting here saying body neutrality is this magic bullet. You're saying this is a tool that can work for many people, and it might not be the right tool for some people.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think, and that's with just about everything.
Yeah.
We have to find our own thing, our own way.
Yeah.
What works best for us.
Yeah.
Along the whole health and wellness journey. I know.
And it seems like body neutrality might be for the person who has struggled with hating their bodies, don't believe it's possible ever to get to the point where they love their body, and so they just kind of gave up. And this might be something to try for them. Okay, well, so I have another question about body neutrality, because the way that it sounds and the way that it was described is you've got the spectrum and it kind of falls right in the middle. So for someone who is experiencing the thin ideal, who's stuck in that and in a unhealthy way, is that those exercises you gave, are those the same exercises you would use to start for someone who's kind of stuck in that?
It's breaking apart diet culture a little bit.
Okay.
And seeing where they're stuck. Because in that, because I get that. If we've had a society, if we've grown up in that era, And that's more prevalent now, unfortunately, because of 24/7. You know, I wrote Not a Fat Annie for that next generation, right? Because I don't want our kids to have to deal with all this societal pressure of fitting into this space. So if someone's stuck in there and does not want to move, we can broach it, but whether they're willing to hear or listen or open up is also not always easy.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's just like someone who is suffering from depression or anxiety and reaching out for help and asking for help. It's only when someone reaches out for help and realizes that this is not healthy. This is not helping me. And sometimes it does take an intervention, but someone stuck in thin ideal who is punishing their body in unhealthy ways and doesn't want to change.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to pull them out.
They have to
but
want.
if they're like, oh, enough. And I think we see a lot of that here, you know, the yo-yo dieters that at some point we're just like, enough's enough. Like someone's got to give.
Yeah.
You know, you think about restriction and dieting in the sense of diet culture. 95% of the time it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And yet we keep doing it. For 50 years, we've been doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, that if we have an increase in the obesity rates and an increase in diet culture, those two things really shouldn't be going up
Right.
at the same time. Like we gotta step back and take another look at this.
There's a culture issue there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's, you know, understanding and teaching on diet culture and teaching on the imagery that is not true. And I think you're hearing a little bit more of that on social media now of people I think people are showing up on TikTok more original, not as polished, quote unquote, as Instagram.
More authentic.
Kind of like, this is who I am, and I'm not going to do 20 takes for myself.
Right.
I'm just going to show up.
This is what it is.
I'm going to show up as me and take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And go from there. And that's what I hope for all of us.
Yeah.
Because then we show up real.
That's right. And more relatable.
Exactly.
All right. I have two more questions for you.
Okay.
So you said something earlier that sparked a different kind of question that I hadn't considered. You said intervention might be, you know, in dire situation. I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth, but use the word intervention. So it seems like there's a dynamic that maybe listeners might be wondering about how to approach. And it seems like it could happen on either end. So someone who's stuck on the thin ideal mindset and in an unhealthy pattern there. And then also maybe there's someone who, you know, a loved one who maybe is on the other extreme where they're in a body positivity mindset to the point where they might be ignoring health. And so as a fellow loved one, you mentioned someone has to be open and willing. What is the right approach to talking to somebody who might be stuck in an unhealthy pattern on either end of that spectrum?
Yeah, it's a compassionate, supportive, non-judgmental place of curiosity.
Curiosity, non-judgmental. Okay.
Yeah, I think those compassion, curiosity, non-judgmental, and being open to just having a conversation. I mean, I had people come and open up a very non-judgmental, compassionate conversation with me, and not a you should or you need to or you're doing. You know, it can just, unfortunately, it has to be done very carefully. But those are some words to kind of talk through. And ultimately, though, and we've talked about this, it comes down to a person's, you know, body autonomy. And that this is my body. And I use the phrase, sometimes we need this, not your body, not your business. Like, it's my body, it's my business. So that's kind of what body autonomy
I like that. Not your body, not your business.
You know, how I treat my body is my business.
Sure.
And if other people don't like it, you know, it's when it ends up impacting your health in a place where you end up in the hospital, or it's adjusting then there's something we have to do. Usually after a while in unhealthy behaviors, either there's a compassionate person who steps in or something tragic happens. And that's when somebody, it's that hitting of rock bottom that you hear about with other types of addictions and disorders. And that hitting of rock bottom opens eyes and then says, maybe I'm thinking about all of this wrong.
Yeah.
But
sometimes rock bottom has to happen.
Yeah. And that's what's so hard, is that sometimes rock bottom has to happen. And when it does, then how do we help? And we help in the same way we would try to step in with an intervention, support, compassion, curiosity, no judgment. How can I support you? What can I do? How can I help you? Because people come in thinking they know how to help you.
Oh, yeah.
And that isn't always what you need as a recipient.
We call them the friendly enemies here.
Yes.
You mean well, but you're not helping.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And having conversations around that. I was thinking that those conversations, sometimes you don't even know how someone can help you. And I just want to share with the people who are watching, this is a great way to just say, this isn't helping when you say this. Let's try this. But I don't know if this is going to work. Let's just experiment with it. Because they might say that, and that might hit you wrong too. And you're like, well, that's not working.
Yeah.
So we got to figure something out. But it opens lines of communication. And that's where it starts, is this place where let's have a conversation. This isn't helping. Maybe this will be an easier way to approach this. And maybe this will feel better on my end. I'll receive it better. But it has to kind of happen in order for you to say, well, yes, that was much better. Thank you. Or no, it's not working. We got to figure something else out too.
So it almost seems like on both ends of the side, there's got to be an openness to conversation and not judgment and curiosity.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what healthy relationships are about too.
And if the party who may be in need of intervention isn't open, it might take a rock bottom.
Yep.
And if the party who's trying to intervene isn't open and curious, then that might be some tough conversations.
Yeah. Or it might push away.
Right.
Right. And backtrack.
Yeah.
So that's always careful. You have to be careful. Yeah.
Well, Anne, this is super cool. I never thought I'd be working with someone who trended 1.1 billion views with a term. That's pretty cool. Do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners today about body neutrality or anything at all that you'd like to share?
Well, here is how I end the body image class here, because I think that this is the key to behavior change too. And it comes from Wayne Dyer, and a quote from Wayne Dyer: when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so when you change the way you see yourself and look at yourself and your body, it changes everything. And so that's what I liked it. And you have the choice to do that.
Someone give her a mic. I love it. And this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll have to have you back. Yes, absolutely. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you learned a lot about this concept of body neutrality. Check it out. And as always, remember, this podcast is for you. Let us know, what other topics would you like to hear? Who else would you like to hear me interview? And as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.